And now, your Pickle Gals.
Pickle Gals, we are back. We are all the way already at episode 8 of season 2. We were having a ton of fun, and I guess that's going to reflect because it looks like we're going to go through the end of the year, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
We've had amazing guests so far, so it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we're just going to keep riding this, and we can only do that with your support. So we both want to say thank you so much for supporting us for these last 2 years. We look forward to what the future brings, and couldn't be more excited for you joining us today as well.
Yeah, and have really enjoyed having our guests on. I think, thanking them again for sharing their time and their passion in whatever field that they were in has been really cool. And luckily, I'm going to see you in person next week. We are going to be meeting up in Florida to hang out, celebrate the end of this one, and create the next. So if you have ideas or comments, content, questions that we could answer, maybe let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's do this.
Let's
I'm
go.
Travis Backman.
And I'm Rachel Roney.
And together we are
the
Pickle Gals.
Yeah.
So today we bring a one-of-a-kind conversation that's going to be about a product. And I've been trying to figure out how to kick this off. Let's see. It is Facebook meets Court Reserve meets the old school places to play, maybe, or Travelocity meets Match.com. Yeah. Think about that for a minute. So to help explain and paint the picture of what that really means, we're happy to bring Dan Brooks and Steve Sebastian onto the show. So we're going to go do that right now, and we're going to get into what this is all about.
All right. Welcome, guys. Hello, Dan. Hello, Steve.
Hello there.
Pickle ladies.
Welcome
Pickle
to the Pickle Gals. As we can see, DiNKR is what we're going to be talking about today. But before we kick things off, we like to learn a little bit about our guests each time. So, Dan, if you want to kick us off, and then Steve, just a little bit about your background and in pickleball, what your kind of path has been to this point.
Sure. No, thank you for having us firstly. So, as you can probably tell, I'm not from around these parts, that being the United States. So I grew up in not far from Wimbledon, so I grew up playing tennis amongst other sports. Went to university in the UK, then moved overseas, went to live in Indonesia for 20 years, where I was a wildlife and travel photographer. Wow. Had a design business, a couple of restaurant businesses, sort of did some pretty interesting exotic trips around the country to dragons and whale hunters and that sort of thing.
Wow.
Moved to the States 15 years ago, was in Austin for 10 years, moved to Charlotte, North Carolina 6 years ago, and was introduced to pickleball when the photo studio we used to use up in Kansas City was around the corner from the original Chicken and Pickle. And every time we go past, I'd inquire what that was, and I was told, well, that's a game played by retirees in Florida. So I thought, well, that's clearly not for me. Not, of course, realizing my advanced years did not put me far off that age bracket. So finally relented, and we had an after party there, and I just fell in love with the sport immediately, and loved my first exposure to it. And then my now wife and I started playing and just became obsessed. And we play, like good pickleballers, we play at least 4 or 5 times a week at the very least. And then met Steve and sort of, jumped into creating this app, which was based off an idea in a movie script that I had written, which was sort of a sequel to Dodgeball. So that's how we come to be where we are today.
And
that is a lot.
Before you start jumping in, Steve, and he's still married, folks. He's been playing with his wife for a while now, and they are still married.
I'm going to correct you that we rarely play together for that.
There we go.
Ain't that the truth?
It's a smart move.
Steve, talk to us. That's awesome, Dan.
Yeah, well, first I want to say thank you. And also, Krishan, the way that you pronounced my last name was exotic. So thank you for that.
I was like, was it?
Yeah, it's not quite as exotic because I'm Eastern European, and so it's pronounced Sebastian, which is just Sebastian in English. but I do like your version a heck of a lot better.
I do too.
That will now be the official version.
That's right. But like Dan said, right? I mean, we met on a pickleball court. I was essentially running an advanced pickleball group. Dan and I are both members of a club called Lifetime. They've got facilities all over the country, and we just found that the programming at the club was lacking. So I approached some leadership and proposed an idea to say, hey, I think I can run a better program. I'm a very data-driven guy. My entire background, you can see over my shoulder, there's a frame with police patches. I spent 30 years building technology and supporting all things public safety. And then when I discovered pickleball a couple of years ago, I sort of took that data-driven background, and I was like, hey, I think there's a better way to to improve the experience for players. And then Dan approached me and said, hey, I got this wild and crazy idea. Read this movie script. What do you think? And I'll be honest, it was the first movie script I ever read, but it was phenomenal. And I thought to myself, son of a gun, I actually love pickleball, and why not build a business around pickleball instead of thinking about saving the world on a daily basis? Why not just bring joy to people? So we got together, and we've been rocking and rolling. And while my background isn't quite as eclectic as Dan's, I spent the very formative years of my youth as a hacker, and ultimately ended up doing some questionable things. Was approached. Well, interestingly enough, because I work with law enforcement, they all know the story, and the statute of limitations on my crimes are long past.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I did some hacking, and then it turned out that somebody was like, "Hey, instead of hacking the government, why don't you actually help us?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" That took me.
Job.
That was my job. Yeah, they were like, "We'll pay you to stop doing the things that you're doing and to prevent others from doing the things that you were doing." So I spent, my career doing that. What's that?
Isn't it keep your friends close, your enemies closer? I think that's
right. That's right. Well, I'll tell you, the very first time I told that story in front of an audience of about 400 or 500 police chiefs and sheriffs, there were a lot of audible gasps when I was like, hey, I hacked the Connecticut DMV. I made real licenses. I made a business out of this thing.
Oh, no.
And they were looking at me, and there was a gentleman from the FBI, and he said, how long ago was that? And at the time, I was 27 or 28. I said, I was 16. You can't do anything about it. So, yeah. So anyway.
There's no statute of the FCC for our podcast getting shut down because we got a hacker on.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Well, I will tell you that you said your background may not be as eclectic, but I will say that cool. Sebastian is quite the last name compared to Dan Brooks.
That's right. It will appeal to our international audience.
There you go.
We're gonna think you're the other guy.
Yeah, Brooks is just the anglicization of my actual name, which is so too many syllables. It's Welsh and Celtic, and it's all over the place. So I'm lying, but let's pretend I'm not.
Well, then again,
now I want to know what it is.
Yeah, what is it?
No, I was lying. I don't have an exotic name at all.
Like when I tell people I wish my name were Jill Smith, right? Krishan Spackman is a bit of a mouthful, but you got me beat on Dan Brooks, though. Great to hear a little bit of the backstory. And before we kind of dive into what in the world is this DiNKR thing that we're kind of talking about and you guys are representing so well, when we first met and started talking about this, and you started sharing some of the backstory about how this even came about, and we found out that we had a dotted line commonality, if you will, not quite intertwined, but a commonality. And I won't give the whole story away because I want you to share with the listeners, but it brought us together from the point of Vince Vaughn and the Coachella Valley Scorpions. So Vince Vaughn is the major owner of the Coachella Valley Scorpions, whom I played for my first year in the National Pickleball League and yell and scream for loudly this last year. So it is a fascinating thing to discover while meeting and getting to know you both. And I'm going to just stop right there because I want Dan, I want you to tell us how did the app come about, and then we can just dive right into the app at that point. But I think the backstory is really a good one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when I first had the idea of writing a movie script, it came because the company I was working with basically shut down, went bankrupt. So I was at a loose end, and I'd always wanted to like do some writing. It's, you know, I've been a photographer and a screenwriter, a photojournalist, and all sort of other creative disciplines. So I'd also had this notion that the world was ready for a Dodgeball sequel. So that was sort of my starting point. So wrote a couple of scripts, and from the very first version, one of the plot devices was that one of the protagonists was an app developer, and he'd created DiNKR, which had got him into some trouble. And then later in the movie, as the movie progresses, you find out that two of the other characters hadn't met on DiNKR. One was married, one was single, and the married guy left his wife, who then became the nemesis of the Pickleball team. And I recall very clearly, I was out on a boat with my wife on one of the lakes, and I thought, you know what, the app's in the movie, why not just go ahead and make the app? Why don't we make the app an actual thing? So I went ahead and registered the name DiNKR with the very obvious references to some of the dating apps that are out there, and also it's a very easy to remember name. And so I'd sort of secured the domain whilst the script was in early stages, and ended up co-writing with the original writer of Dodgeball, who, when we did some social media promotion about the script, looking for like some crowdfunding, he reached out and said, hey, this is going to be a long shot, but would you care to collaborate on this movie? And he says, you wouldn't know my name, but here's a link to me. And I read the article about him, like, are you kidding me right now? So long story short, he had the movie was taken from him by the mailroom guy at Fox Movies.
Oh man,
Rachel, he's not kidding.
Yeah, no, the article is, I mean, it's sad. So, and David is just the loveliest guy. So we had just a lot of fun writing the movie. I mean, I think I shared a copy of the script with you. I'm not sure if you had a chance to dig into it, but, it was supposed to be a not family friendly, but a sort of a slightly raunchy, updated kind of Dodgeball in the Pickleball world. And we actually got into pre-production, and then the California fires happened and a few other things. But the best thing that came about was that when I got the script at a certain point, I shared it with Steve, and I said, hey, do you want to make this app? And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, there's an app in the movie, so the movie could market the app, and the app could market the movie. And he's like, yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that was sort of how the app came to be, is it was to address what had been created in my, in my own fantasy mind about an app that may be useful in the Pickleball world.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and a clarification, the app is not a raunchy app, okay? The movie.
I think we have a raunchy photo filter built in, so you can't do those sorts of things. Yes.
Filter. Well, awesome. Now I'm curious, what is DiNKR? What can I do through the app, with the app, as a user?
Steve, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Listen, the initial thesis started off with, we looked at the market, right? We did a little bit of market research to say, okay, well, what's out there? What problems are they trying to address for players, for clubs, and so on? And it was very apparent to us because oftentimes I think the best way to start a business is to solve your own problems. And one of the problems that we were having is, as I alluded to earlier with my sort of technical background, I had developed a script that would automatically allow me to book a court before anybody else at Lifetime. And I became a black market dealer, right? So I'm like sitting there booking courts and then sending messages out to people via WhatsApp and carrier pigeon. And, I'm yelling, I'm like, who can fill the court? And we realized that's like right there is one of the biggest problems that any pickleball player has, is just, I have a court and now I need people. And I deal with people who are similarly skilled, people who are friends, people who I would want to enjoy to play with. So we really designed around that core problem is our initial thesis of helping people to organize games. And then the social features, came shortly after, where we added the dating element, because people were meeting other players. But there was sort of a desire for people to say, oh, hey, maybe I want to go beyond just a platonic relationship. I happen to be, not me personally, but, if I'm a user, I happen to be single.
I'm your target audience. For that.
Right. And so that was our core thesis, was to address the problems that players face. And I'll make one last sort of note about it. What we see in the market is that there are so many other services out there that are attempting to solve problems for pickleball players, but they tend to focus on a very small subset of the population, like that 1%. I'm a tournament player. I want to be a pro. But 99% of pickleball players don't care about Duper. They don't care about tournaments. They don't care about becoming pros. They're recreational players who just want to have a really good time and get good exercise. And we want to address their needs primarily because they are the biggest part of the market.
Yeah, to your point, and in my head I'm saying curated groups, but I work at a facility now, and to your point, that's exactly what I'm seeing is people want to play with who they have fun with and irrelevant of their rating. And so trying to create these groupings, I'm kind of doing it myself now, but it sounds like I could just use this app and kind of set it up. So
and Rachel, you're single, so you could find a date as well.
Yeah.
And then you got to credit these guys another year.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll just share like one specific thing that I think helps address that for a lot of people. Oftentimes people will book a court and they'll send out, broadcast messages across various channels, and then they'll fill the court and they have 4 players. And then 2 hours or the night before, suddenly somebody says, I can't make it. And now they're scrambling. Where did I have that message? Was it in WhatsApp? Was it here? So we have a feature in there called squads, where you create groups, right, or squads of individuals that meet certain criteria. Couples I like to play with, best friends, weekend warriors, whatever. And then you set up sequential invites. So you say, hey, I want to initially send it out to my best friends. And if they don't subscribe that court within 8 hours, then go to my backup squad. And if they don't subscribe within the time limit, then notify the lobby, and anybody at that venue associated with that venue then gets an invite as long as they meet the criteria. So you're always assured that somebody will fill that spot for you. And that's ultimately, I think, what pickleball players want. They want to be able to walk onto the court and have a good time.
And if you're go ahead, Dan.
Well, I was going to say, and additionally, it adds that slight randomization. So you do have the chance to play with people you might not otherwise play with. Now, that can be a good or a bad thing, but typically it's a good thing to expand your social circle. And you'll find some of the guys we play with frequently now were people who responded to a lobby invite that we hadn't really played with, or we just didn't sort of come across court. So it does serve that sort of community building aspect that we wanted very much to be integrated into that, because for me, and I think for Steve, one of the things that we've most enjoyed about pickleball at this stage in our social life, in our athletic life, is still being able to play a competitive sport, but being able to play a socially dynamic sport where you do get to meet new people from all walks of life, from all age groups, all ethnicities, whatever demographic definitions you have, and that is really unique in the sporting world. So part of our purpose in DiNKR is to facilitate those introductions and those opportunities.
Yeah, I was thinking, you talked about go to my best friend group, then this group, then this group, and then I'm thinking, oh, so if I was a matchmaker, I could create a group of single players, right? I don't have to tell anybody. It's almost hacking.
It's life hacking, social hacking. Exactly.
Okay, there we go. Social hacks. But next thing you know, we brought a group together of folks that are single. So what I really like, and I'll make sure people hear clearly. So the core of it, you haven't heard by rating yet, right? By similar criteria, but a lot of the criteria you guys emphasize is more, you know what? I really had fun. So I just met a couple of people at the venue. I really had fun with them, whether they were better, same, different, don't care, but I had fun with them. And so if they were single, maybe that's good too. So then now all of a sudden I can create a group with those new people that I have and bring them into the group that I already have. And now, maybe we're all kind of have the same sense of humor or the same kind of other interests, or single, not single, doesn't matter. But it's now, it's kind of like in high school when you couldn't wait to get for Friday night to come. And you're like, Mom, Dad, can I go hang out at Joey's house or Samantha's house?
Yeah.
That
And there's a
sounds
shared
fun.
interest, right? Like it's football buddies or whatever. I mean, what we see sometimes people will create squads aligned around their interests, right? So if they want to go out with their significant other, then they want to invite a mixed couples, right? They don't want to say like, oh, just guys. And if you're, into knitting as an example, you may have a knitting crew and you're like, hey, we want to get together, because in between those matches is where oftentimes the real magic happens, is when you're done and you're socializing a little bit and you're building that chemistry, because there is a distinct difference between skill and chemistry. Skill is accounted for in this sport, right? Duper is probably, the most well-known, but there are others out there trying to sort of, make their name. But chemistry oftentimes is overlooked, but it is fundamental to the sport. It is the bedrock of how pickleball has become so popular, because people have developed chemistry as a social connection. So we want to, again, celebrate that and surface it.
Yeah, and I think if I can, it's very much an antidote to the emerging obsession that people have with always needing to play a competitive game. I think for a lot of people, the entry point into the sport was not only the competitiveness; it was social. It was doing a shared activity. So we enable competitiveness. We're going to be introducing sort of game management sessions where you can track scores and you can get the bragging rights. But we also don't want to lose track of the fact that it's fun to play with people who are differently skilled to you or from different backgrounds or whatever criteria. So we embrace that notion, and we want to encourage a place where you can have your competitive Friday night group where you're all 4-5s and you're going hammer and tongs, but also your Wednesday afternoon group, maybe people of different backgrounds and different skill sets. And there needs to be room for both in our mind in the pickleball community.
100%, Dan. I see this at my facility. I think there is that divide happening now, and most of the products that have come out are geared to leveling you or even the right group. And your product is essentially getting to the heart of, why did we all start playing this? This is why we wanted to play with people we liked and connect with our community or people beyond that. And so I absolutely love that. And that's the part of it that keeps me engaged. It's not the competitive duper rating part of it. So
right, exactly.
I wouldn't
don't forget where you came from.
Well, exactly.
My mom used to tell me.
I moved down to Florida. On that note, I moved down to Florida just a little over a year ago. I wouldn't have any friends in Florida if I hadn't had pickleball to get to know people, right? Maybe there's other reasons, but that's my reason.
But no, you're right, because I mean, you could walk onto a public court, right, and then see a bunch of paddles in a paddle rack, or strewn about, on the fence line. And within a couple of minutes, somebody is making eye contact with you saying, hey, like, do you want to get in on this? You don't see that in many other sports, right?
Didn't have it in tennis for sure.
And so again, like, I think what we're trying to do is replicate the experience that people have in the physical world, and then create a digital twin, right? Like the thing that I'm experiencing here, why not make it digital so that when they're, again, creating those matches or communicating with their friends, their experience starts in DiNKR and it continues, whether you're competitive or you're recreational or whatever that might be. And I think if we can do that successfully, and I think we have a good opportunity to do so, I think it will appeal to a large part of the pickleball population.
Yeah, and if I can sort of dovetail onto that, I think that's also been the challenge writing a code, because if you have a tournament, it's all very predictable outcomes. Player A, player B wins, player A goes through, et cetera, et cetera. You don't need to account for human behavior. We're trying to build a much more complex, dynamic social ecosystem where no two people act the same way. And in the early stages of development, we designed it in a way we felt, well, this is the logical flow. And hardly anybody followed the logic. They do, well, I want to do that first. No, I'm telling you, you got to do this first. So we're trying to account for this tapestry of human behaviors in a way that still the technology fades into the background and pushes the relationship building to the foreground.
I like that a lot. And I did want to highlight, so I think there's a real good picture that you've painted on the groups and curating and why and how. And one thing I wanted to mention, and I want to make sure I got this right, as I was reading about the app, and Rachel and I both downloaded it, created our
started a squad,
free accounts and everything. But I wanted to just make sure people understood. So on the dating app side, the way the component, not app, the component of it, the way I'm reading it is A, it's optional. B, if I want to do it, I can basically click on something that says I want to be involved. I want to be part of that. I can turn it off also. And then what I love about it is, maybe this is sneaky, but what I love about it is when I do that, as I understand it, the only people that see it, which is kind of, I guess, a creative heart made out of pickleball paddles. I did my homework. The only people that see that when they're looking for groups and people and all that are the people who also signed up for that. So if I don't want Rachel to know that I've signed up on the dating piece of it and she didn't sign up, I wouldn't know. She would not know that I did. I just appear as another player, right?
No, and that discretion was absolutely something we consciously designed around. And part of it again was to solve for something we're aware of with the mainstream dating apps, that they are struggling because success on the app leads to business failure. Because if people meet on whichever dating app it is, success means they abandon that app. They found their date. Whereas we wanted to build something that was part of a vibrant community rather than aside from it. Because there are other apps, dating apps emerging in the pickleball space. We're aware of that. But they follow the very traditional dating app model. Put people together and then don't provide any other services. Once they're together, then they're no longer a client. So we wanted to solve for that finding someone to date in DiNKR does not mean you need to leave DiNKR. It means you get to do things together in DiNKR. You get to make new friend groups, make new playing partners. But also, as you said, it's got to be discreet. If a player wants to opt in, you're right. That the open to dating icon that gets tagged on their profile is only visible to other people who have similarly opted in. So to everybody else, you look like a regular player. So you're not excluding or including people voluntarily. You're allowing that human behavior to take the forefront. So I can look at you guys. Hey, you guys want a game? It doesn't matter if your date opted in, I'm opted in. I see you as players I may want to play with. And to me, that's what pickleball is about. And then if you can find a romantic interest, well, even better.
I really want to say too, as a single person and having used some dating apps, what I like about this is it takes the pressure off. Like, I'm totally fine having a connection. Maybe we like pickleball and I still have that great new connection versus a dating app where it's like, oh, I went on a date. I don't want to date you. So bye, like never talk again. Right. So it creates some type of connection beyond the pressure of, are we going to date?
Yes, you have a shared commonality. And one of the things we hear so often from people is in their, again, real world experiences. And I mentioned this earlier about chemistry, right? If you're in an open play at your club, right, Rachel, as an example, and I'm just a stranger who shows up and I'm like, hey, I want to play in this open play. Within that 10 to 15 minute, sort of match, time frame, I will probably pretty quickly pick up on whether or not my partner is somebody that I enjoy playing with or can play with. Because there are some people that you get on the court with and they just somehow seem to know where they need to be relative to you, and you're kind of moving in sync and you're like, wow, this is incredible. And then you got those people, you're just running into each other, you're smacking each other in the head with a paddle, right? And you're like, this isn't working.
Hey, it wasn't that hard. I meant it.
Exactly. It was just a light concussion. It was fine. But still, like in that experience is when you're there, and if you're again meeting someone in a potential romantic setting, within that first 10 to 15 minutes, you have a pretty good sense of, is this somebody that I would get along with? Right. And unlike a traditional date where you're like stuck at dinner and you're like, son of a gun, how do I get out of here? Oh, my friend's calling me. My mom needs me. You're like 10 minutes later when the match is over, you don't have to see that person. You could just walk away and be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to do something else. So there is something I think unique about pickleball and how people, again, are using that social setting as a way to make friends and make, again, romantic connections.
Absolutely. And I love the intentionality that there's a lot of, you can tell there's a lot of thoughtfulness that was put into this. And so definitely love that.
I want my icon to be out there for everybody to see.
Well, I was going to say, when Dan came up with that icon, I loved it, right? It was just the two little paddles coming across and you get the heart, right? So yeah, I mean, that all the design elements, I mean, that's all Dan. But like the first time I saw that and he's just like, what do you think of this? I'm like, oof, that is really good.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was driven by trying to, reaching for universality. We're very aware that pickleball is now a truly global sport and will become even more so. So you can't design for a single audience demographically by any definition. It's good to give people, empower users to use the app in a way that best suits their needs, rather than imposing a rigid set of rules and regulations that everybody has to follow. That's just not a way to grow an app, globally and across multicultural boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I know we only have a couple minutes left, but and these are the two of the components of the app that I really wanted us to talk about. So I'm so appreciative of that, and that is, the now and the future are these curated groups, and now you've allowed that to expand beyond rating or are you good enough or not good enough or whatever, right? Now you've made it more humanistic and, like you said, social behavior based. So that was something I really wanted us to talk about. And then, something extremely unique is how you integrated that optional feature and discrete feature of dating. So as we wrap up, I know there's a little bit more to the app too, I believe. So maybe just if you can kind of hit on, what else the app does, because I don't want people to think those are the only two things, because this app is extremely well-rounded.
Dan, go ahead, brother.
Well, yeah, I mean, thank you. I mean, yeah, our roadmap for features is extensive. You can already create games and score games, but we're adding a lot of sort of what we call session management tools, which do not yet at this point include sort of the more traditional tournaments, because a lot of our competitors are very focused and created some fantastic software to manage that. We're thinking about things where you've got 8 friends and you want to do a multi-court session. You want to be able to, mix it up, where you do want to maybe track ratings. Like, we've got our own little rating system, which is not as comprehensive as the commercial ones, but allows you to sort of keep track. So I think our main focus is on creating a platform where people feel they can find what they're looking to get out of a game. So yes, it does create a sort of a cross for our own back. We're trying to be all things to all people. But from what we've spec'd out, from what we're already sort of programming in the background, we believe we've got a really genuine path to being that digital clubhouse. So you can come in looking for a casual game, or you can come in looking to date, or you can come in looking to meet new friends or play competitive pickleball, wherever you land on that scale. And you may begin in one place and end up in another. We want to provide you a safe, comfortable space where you can explore the game on your own terms.
Yeah. That's awesome. Is there a cost to the app? And also, where do we find this and download it? I already done that, but yeah.
It's available on iOS and Android. It is free. We do plan to introduce some paid features here in the near future. As Dan mentioned, right, we're adding game modes. We're adding some really advanced analytics. And when I say that, I don't want people to think that our advanced analytics are going to be like, here's just a bunch of numbers vomited at you, right? We want to create, the way we look at this is we want to be sort of the Apple of the pickleball ecosystem, a beautiful, deliberate, thoughtful experience versus putting function over form. And so for us, we're intending to, again, put some of those features behind a paywall. I have developed a little AI chatbot I affectionately call DiNKR. We'd like to build that in there. So we got
and that's respect to the original Clippy. That's how they came.
That's right. Exactly. It's an ode to Clippy. And if you understand what Clippy is, thank you. You're in our generation. But yeah, I mean, that's we've got a pretty deep bench on where we want to go. But before I forget, I do want to say, Vince Vaughn, if you're listening, please reach out to us. We'd love to have you part of the In a Pickle movie. and participate in it. So we love you.
Are you whispering, Jim? Are you trying to be such?
I am talking directly to Vince. If you're listening, buddy, reach out.
Okay. You heard it here first.
And then,
when that happens,
so you can
started here on the Pickle Gals podcast.
That's right.
Exactly. And you can, as Steve said, you can find it on both app stores. It's also DiNKR.co, so DiNKR.co, and that has links to both App Store and the Play Store. So you can find it there. You can read a little bit more about where the app is now. And look, we're excited about this journey, and we just would love feedback from anyone who listens to it and uses it and says, can you add this? Because again, we want to embrace and be a part of the bigger community and not just serve a small section.
Yeah. And it's Steve at DiNKR.co or Dan at DiNKR.co. And you can also find us on social at DiNKR.app.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was fantastic. And definitely do go download the app. Like I said, it's free. Check out the webpage because there are even more features and functions out there than we had time to cover today. But we wanted to make sure that what sets this app apart, what sets DiNKR apart, Dan and Steve apart, not only is exotic background versus data hacker, is actually this amazing app DiNKR. So we are super excited to have you today. We thank you so much for joining us. You're right in our wheelhouse in terms of your value system and just your fun personalities and giving back to the community. So we appreciate that very much. And with that, we are coming to an end to season 2, episode 8. Court is adjourned.